you hope to succeed in the field of rocket science, it's very important that you follow instructions. This is especially true when assembling your model rockets. Follow the steps in order or your rocket will not fly straight. Erica, are you on your phone again?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Hey everybody, Erica here, coming to you from Space Camp. Had to cut my last vid short because Mr. Allen made me put my phone away during class. Busted! So, I put my phone away. I am not one to disobey my teacher. No way. I'm really big on obedience. Obedience is trusting who is in charge by doing what you're asked to do. And today, we've been asked to build our own rocket. Okay, between you and me, I finished my rocket before anyone else. Hooked it up and everything. Because I watched a vlog online called Shortcuts to Rocket Building. Launch switch, gotta be careful. Okay, look, I know I said I'm not one to disobey my teacher, but this case is different, all right? Mr. Allen probably doesn't realize there's a faster way to build a rocket. He doesn't realize my way is better. Maybe this time, Mr. Allen can learn something from me. In today's Bible story, we're going to start from the very beginning. Oh wait, we'll just go with, there we go. Very beginning, with two people who thought their way was better. So, they didn't follow the rules. Well, just the one rule, actually. Things turned out really badly for them, but nothing bad's going to happen to me. Oh. No. No, back here! I got you now! No! I'll be right back.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. And now for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verses 1 to 24.
In the beginning, before there was a beginning, there was nothing but God. There was no sight, no sound, no touch. And then God shouted, and lightness exploded into the darkness. At the sound of His voice, the waters began to tumble and the skies spread open wide. And He brought to life the plants, the animals, the fish, all with just a few words. And He saw that it was good. Then God got down in the mud. He formed the first person out of dirt, and He breathed life into his lungs. And when He looked at the first man, Adam, He said,
"It's not good for him to be alone. I'll make a helper who is just right for him."
And so God took one of Adam's ribs and created the first woman, Eve. And when God looked at the people He created, He saw that they were very good. And so Adam and Eve set off into their new home, a beautiful garden filled with fast-flowing rivers, amazing plants, and tasty treats to eat.
I wonder what this big green thing is like inside. Sounds a bit hollow.
Bright red. What a mess.
But so good. Try some.
I'd say that is watermelon.
Adam and Eve could go anywhere and do anything. There was only one rule God had given them to keep them safe, and He gave this rule to Adam.
You may eat fruit from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you do, you will certainly die.
Adam stared up at the tall tree in the center of the garden. Its beautiful fruit seemed to glow in the sunlight.
I wonder what it's like inside. But I don't want to, what's that thing you said? Die?
Adam and Eve loved their new home. They loved swimming in the river and feeding bits of oatcakes to the birds. There was nothing they needed, except dessert, of course.
Let's go pick some dates.
On their way to the date palm tree, though, they passed right under the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The beautiful fruit swayed gently in the breeze. Then all of a sudden, they jumped back. A serpent was coiled along the branch, just hovering over the fruit.
Such a sweet dessert.
Oh, no, I'm just looking. God said we can't eat this fruit. If we even touch it, what's that thing? We'll die.
Certainly not so.
But God said...
God knows. If you sample this fruit, you'll know new things. Just like God.
The fruit looked so inviting, Eve couldn't help reaching out for it again. She almost touched it.
You mean it would make me smart? I mean, smart.
Wise like God.
Eve turned to Adam.
Well, that would be a good thing, right?
Adam's eyes were fixed on the juicy fruit, too.
Seems like it. And I'm really curious what's inside.
What if God is just keeping us from something good?
You're missing out.
Eve grasped the fruit, and it dropped right into her hand, and she took a big, juicy bite.
What's it like? Do you feel different? Do you think that...
Here.
Eve handed the apple to Adam, and he took a bite, too.
Oh.
Adam and Eve hardly even noticed what the fruit was like because suddenly they were flooded with new and terrible thoughts and feelings. For the first time ever, they felt guilty and ashamed, and for the first time ever, they noticed something else.
Adam, we should cover ourselves up.
With what?
Eve glanced around.
Leaves. We'll use leaves.
Adam and Eve pieced together fig leaves from a nearby tree to cover themselves, but before they were even finished, they heard a rustling and a swaying in the garden.
It's him. It's God.
Quick, hide.
Adam and Eve ducked behind the largest fig tree.
Where are you?
Adam didn't say a word. Eve jabbed him in the ribs with her elbow.
Say something. You were the one who wanted to hide.
Adam glared, but spoke up anyway.
I heard you, and I was afraid because I wasn't wearing clothes. So I hid.
Who said you weren't wearing anything? Have you eaten fruit from the tree I commanded you not to?
You see, it's not my fault. It's that woman you put here. She gave me the fruit.
Eve jabbed him in the side again.
Eve, what have you done?
It's not my fault. The serpent tricked me.
God's heart was saddened. Adam and Eve had chosen to listen to the serpent instead of trusting and obeying God. They had broken his one rule, one meant to keep them safe. And though God still loved Adam and Eve, they had shattered their perfect friendship with him.
You must leave the garden. From now on, you will work hard for your food and face great pain. Someday you will die and become like the dust you were made from.
Adam and Eve had chosen their own path instead of trusting and obeying in God. Sin entered the world, and sin entered their hearts. Now, they had to struggle in the heat and dust to grow their own food that had once come so easily to them in the garden. Because of Adam and Eve's choice, sin spread through their children's children and grandchildren until eventually all the people's hearts were filled with ugliness, evil thoughts, pleasing themselves instead of loving and obeying God. And it would take a big miracle from God himself to change his people on the inside.
Okay, good news is my rocket flew. It didn't fly straight, but it flew! Bad news is, I've got to start all over again. Here's a tip. Don't attach the launch switch to the rocket while you're indoors. Here's another tip. Your teachers, your parents, the people in charge, they've been around longer than you, so they know a little bit more than you do. So it makes sense to trust them and do what they say, even when you think your way is better. Take Adam and Eve. They stopped trusting God. They thought their way was better. They broke God's rule and they brought sin into the world. When you don't obey the people in charge, especially when you don't obey God, there are consequences. Sin entering the world was a huge consequence. Sin made it impossible for us to have a relationship with God. That's why God had another plan in place to bring his people back to him. And that plan was finished with Jesus. Jesus died to pay for all of the sins of the world. He died so that it was possible for us to have a relationship with God. And then he came back to life, just to say that he had power over death itself. God can do anything, and he knows everything. His way is always better. You can trust him no matter what. Here's the one thing to remember. Trust and obey, even when you think your way is better. Trust and obey your leaders. Trust and obey God. It's not rocket science. All right, I'm gonna go rebuild my rocket now. Except this time, no shortcuts. Bye!